What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to this video here that really caught my attention because the title says Americans are leaving the United States in record numbers, which, honestly, I had no idea about this. I mean, I'll admit things have gotten pretty bad here in the US. I mean, prices of everything have gone way up, and nobody can afford a house or gas. And I mean, Trump has also managed to destroy our reputation, push away most of our allies, make people hate us even more. Nobody wants to come travel here much anymore. So, yeah, things have gotten pretty bad. But I didn't know that it had actually gotten to the point where so many Americans are straight up leaving the country to go live somewhere else entirely, and in record numbers. I had no idea. I didn't know about that. So today, I really want to check out this video here by traveling with Kristen and learn more about this. So let's take a look.
For some people, the new American dream is not to live there. According to some sources, upwards of 9 million U.S. citizens are currently living abroad, and that number is only going up.
9 million? I didn't know it was that many. 9 million? That's I mean, there's a lot of people in the US, like 350 million at least. But that's so 2 or 3% of all American citizens live outside of the United States. I didn't know it was that many. I think for most average Americans like myself living here, you don't really hear that much about people moving out of the country. That's considered pretty strange. That's considered pretty rare, honestly, here.
Where are they going? Everywhere, but especially Europe. I've been helping Americans move abroad for the last 20 years, and this is the first time that I've seen the top 5 countries all in Europe, starting with Spain,
Oh.
France, Portugal, Italy, and the Netherlands.
So this is where this is interesting. So her job is actually to help Americans who want to move out of the US and live somewhere else. These are the top 5 countries that Americans relocate to live, I guess. They're all in Europe now. Spain, France, Portugal. I don't know much about that one. That kind of surprises me. Italy, the Netherlands, I also don't know much about, but I, I mean, I don't know much about any of these places, but you at least hear some good things about Spain or Italy, France, some stuff. But I don't know anything about Portugal. But this is wow.
And the Netherlands. But there's one other major difference that I've seen in my clients between pre 2024 and now. Before 2024, most of the people who were living abroad were either adventurous backpackers, digital nomads,
Yes.
or affluent people, maybe some jet setters or multinational
Yes.
employees and executives. But since 2024, the type of people who want to move abroad is really everyone and anyone.
This is oh my god. I didn't know how normal this was becoming. Don't get me wrong. I'm not totally shocked, especially now, especially with Donald Trump as our president again, and he's doing worse, I think, almost worse than anybody imagined, just dragging down the United States. It's bad. It's a disaster what's happening. So, part of me understands why there are more Americans now more than ever trying to leave the country. But with that being said, that's still extremely unusual. That's like, it's a big deal. I think especially for Americans, like to quit your job, sell your home, leave your extended family behind, like your friends and family, and move to Europe, which is far away for us. You know what I mean? Like maybe in Europe it's not so crazy because it's like you guys are kind of closer to all the European countries. You are a little closer together. Here in the US, that's really far to move away from your whole life at that point. So it's a really big deal here. And when you hear about that, it's usually like people who are a little eccentric, or like she said, like people who like to explore or adventure, or don't have a family or whatever, or just don't agree with the US. Now, more people are falling into that last category more than ever. People who just don't like the direction that the United States is going, who think that the United States is declining, which there are a lot of signs that is happening. But yeah, part of me is shocked this is happening. Part of me is not shocked.
Most people moving today describe themselves as ordinary people who just want a better life, or some who feel that it's their only option. But
I mean, talking about signs that the United States is declining, like we grew and grew, and we were succeeding, and we peaked, and now we are officially declining. If you're looking for a sign, I think it would be literal American citizens moving away. That's a pretty big sign.
they aren't always welcome where they go. American tourists, expats, immigrants, and digital nomads have faced waves of protests in places like Spain, Portugal, Mexico, and Bali.
I didn't even think about this. What a disaster for us, for our reputation, for our lives. Like, Americans want to leave our country because we're ruining it. But not surprisingly, a lot of the countries that we would like to go to don't want us. And I don't even think we really think about that part of it. Just because we want to go somewhere doesn't mean we're necessarily welcome.
Especially in the last year, due to the sheer number of U.S. citizens abroad. Sources point to anywhere from 4 to 9 million Americans abroad, but there's no official data. So that
Wow.
means that many digital nomads, roaming retirees, and perpetual travelers and study abroad students are likely left out of the estimate.
So this could be like 1 to 3% of the entire United States population. That's 1 out of 100 people don't even live in the US. I did not know it was that common.
We do have some data on the number of US citizens living in specific countries, however. For example, the number of US citizens living in Portugal has increased by 5x since the pandemic, while
Whoa.
the number of Americans in Spain, the Netherlands, and the Czech Republic has doubled. More than 10,000 US citizens moved to Ireland in 2025, double that of the previous year.
2025. I have to think so much of this is because of the Donald Trump effect. There's a lot of Americans who, like, if Trump was elected, kind of said, if he's elected again, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. And they don't really mean it. It's mostly just like hyperbola. It's like, it's just words. Like, it's venting, it's frustration, and I get that. It actually seems like quite a lot of people actually meant it. Especially as time goes on, and Trump seems to get more and more insane in a way. Like, now we're at war with Iran, which is, and that's been a disaster, and it's so bad, and that's dragging down the US and raising prices of gas, and yeah.
Some people have been calling this the Donald Dash due to the numbers of Americans spiking after the 2024 elections. But as someone who's been helping Americans leave the country for more than 2 decades, I've seen this coming for years. The pressure to migrate
Oh,
away from the US has been bubbling for a long time, fed by the rise of remote work, inflation, living costs, and the overall desire for a better quality of life.
yeah, I think for a lot of Americans like myself, you just hear, for one thing, when you grow up in the US, you're taught that this is the greatest country in the world. This is the greatest place in the world. Where else would you want to go? There's nowhere better. That's what you're taught, and that's what a lot of Americans believe. So that's like actually a reason, maybe because of that programming, that a lot of us never even think about leaving the US. A lot of us think that leaving the United States is weird and a bad decision. But that honestly just seems like we've been taught that, programmed that. And like now, because of Donald Trump, a lot of Americans are like having more of an open mind about it, or realizing we're not at the top. We're not the greatest thing ever. We've made a lot of mistakes and we're declining. So it's a hard thing for Americans to acknowledge, but it seems to be happening.
The US experienced a net migration loss of 150,000 people in 2025, and that number is expected to increase.
Who is leaving the US?
Now, a Gallup poll last year found that 40% of American women aged 15 to 44 would like to live abroad if they had the opportunity, but they're
Wow.
not alone.
40% of that age group of women. That's a ton. So there's a lot of Americans, especially women, who would like to leave, who would if they could, but they kind of can't, or feel like maybe it's their job or their family or whatever, but they would if they had the opportunity.
All different types of people, from students and professors to small business owners, engineers, retirees, corporate workers, and digital nomads. It seems like everybody would like to try life abroad. Parents,
Wow.
especially, who are concerned about the deteriorating state of the US education system and especially the risk of school shootings, have also been fleeing abroad.
That's very true. I think a lot of this stuff that's wrong with the US, we kind of ignore it or we accept it as normal. Like the school shooting thing, something that should not be normal. We just kind of put our hands up and go, I guess that's just the way it is. And we don't try to change it. So I understand if there's Americans who feel like they want to leave, because it doesn't seem like the United States we're gonna change. So it's not like you can just wait for something to change, because that's not going to happen.
Says one parent who lives in Germany, you don't face the prospect of your 5-year-old going into kindergarten and doing an active shooter drill here. The wages are higher in the US, but the quality of life is higher in Europe.
Yeah, when I was a kid and they had us do shooter drills, like an alarm would come over the intercom and the teacher would lock the door and we would hide under the desks, or like we would practice what to do if a shooter were to come into the school. I thought that was normal. I thought that was just like you're just a kid, so you think it's normal. US government policies.
Now, US government policies only seem to be encouraging this mass exodus, from domestic initiatives that seem to be increasing the cost of everything from groceries
Yes.
to healthcare to gas prices,
Yes.
to things like the Trump Gold Card, which only encourages millionaires and billionaires to live in the US tax-free.
I heard that was a disaster. I heard they only sold one of these gold cards, these $1 million immigration. Like I heard it was a total fail. Um, but yeah, the cost of everything going up, inflation is going up. No one knows if we're going into a recession. No one knows what's going on with the war with Iran, or why we're doing that, or it's so yeah, it's very bad.
free. There's also the long-term trend now of an ever-increasing number of Americans renouncing their US citizenship. This number has jumped from only a couple hundred back in 2009 to 6,000 in...
Whoa. That's how you know people are serious. So it's only a few thousand, because that's a huge statement. Renouncing your citizenship so you can never really go back. Because you don't have to do that. You can just move away. That shows how passionate Americans are about this.
2020. In the last few years, it's definitely been around 5,000 or 6,000 people per year.
Wow.
Recently, the cost of renouncing your citizenship may be going down, so we might see even more people taking this route.
Wow. It costs money to do that? Wow, they make you pay for that? Second citizenship.
Thousands of US citizens have also been looking to get second passports through citizenship by descent from their ancestors who lived in other countries. And I'm actually one of them. But unfortunately, some countries have been restricting the ability to get citizenship by descent, such as Italy and Romania. This has directly impacted me. But on the other hand, countries such as Canada are making it easier for foreigners to claim Canadian citizenship.
Huh. Yeah, I haven't looked into that, but that makes sense that Americans would be looking at if they can get citizenship somewhere else. That would make it... That's probably one of the biggest obstacles, honestly, to moving to a different country. Like figuring out what you're going to do about citizenship and getting a job and healthcare and stuff. And I guess for some countries, that's like actually a viable pathway. You just have to have like an ancestor. You have to be a descendant of someone from that country, which that's basically what most Americans are. They're just like descendants of European countries.
In the last year, 6,600 people applied for British citizenship.
Wow.
40,000 applied for Irish citizenship.
Wow.
And 50,000 Mexican Americans reportedly returned to their home country. The big question here is, though, is the American dream actually dead forever, or is this just a temporary migration? Well,
that's definitely something I've wondered, because I guess a lot of it has to do with the damage Trump is doing right now. When his term is over in like 2.5 years, when it's finally over and he's gone, will we ever recover? I don't know. I used to think so, but now things have gotten worse. So I really don't know what the future of the U.S. really is going to look like, even when Trump is gone.
Well, as someone who's helped people leave the US for the past 2 decades, I can say that there's 3 main reasons why they do so. The first one is quality of life. So people are moving towards something for the most part rather than away from something. And this is something that's, I think, been consistent probably throughout human history. People are always looking to find a better life somewhere, whether that's within their country or across borders.
This is what I mean, where a lot of Americans traditionally don't think about this, because we are told, we are taught that everything is the greatest here, that this is the best. And then if you learn a little bit about like healthcare in other countries, education in other countries, work-life balance and benefits, and how the governments work, and quality of life, health, the food. Once you start like actually learning about some of that stuff that they don't teach you here, only then do you really start to question and realize there can be better places than the United States. And a lot of Americans don't even think that's possible. So yeah, it sounds like that's all changing.
The second reason is the political climate, and this has been a more prominent reason in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So the more instability that there is in the US and the more that US policies affect you in your day-to-day life, whether that's at the grocery store or the gas pump or in your housing and utilities costs or in the level of safety that you feel or equality that you feel
Yeah.
with your rights being respected within the country. These are all issues that are driving people to leave the country, and it's not unlike the reasons that people leave any country. But the third
Yes. I think that's spot on. Like in the US, a lot of the time, like Donald Trump is the perfect example. He will say outrageous things, but a lot of it is just words, just nonsense that doesn't really affect the average American out there. Now, like the price of everything is going up. We can't afford anything. We can't be happy. We can't get a home or pay for health care or gas in the car. Things that really get people upset. You know, real actual things, especially money. That's probably the biggest one. So, for a lot of Americans out there who don't really care what Donald Trump says or the policies, because it doesn't affect them, even though it does. But they don't feel like it affects them. This affects everyone. The price of everything and the economy. That affects everyone in a very, very powerful way, a very simple way that everyone can understand. And I think that's why that's one of the biggest reasons we're seeing this massive uptick in Americans leaving the country. Like, that's what really speaks and gets people motivated to do something.
But the third reason is really the cost of living and especially the cost of healthcare in the United States. So
Yes.
I don't really see any of these things getting better in the near term. So I think in the short term, we're going to continue to see an increasing number of people leaving the US and also Canada for some reasons as well. And we'll see what happens long term.
Yes. That's another thing, because maybe there's a lot of Americans who don't leave the country because we think, we're having a rough time right now, but things will get better. It always gets better. I don't know if it's going to get better. So now it's like you have to start thinking about the long term for your life, for the life of your children. These are great points. Like, this is starting to make way more sense to me.
Now, when I first told my family that I wanted to move abroad many years ago and that I wanted to live in Europe permanently someday, they were pretty confused, especially.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that. She is actually an American who moved to Europe. She is an example of this. I didn't know that.
Especially my grandfather. His family moved from Eastern Europe to the US for a better life, and he was like, why would you want to go back there when we did so much to be able to come here?
Right.
And all I could say is that things change a lot in 100 years, and sometimes things come full circle. I don't think I'm the only one who is looking to return to my roots of my ancestry over in Europe. Maybe you are as well. If you're interested in following my journey.
Yeah, this was a really great video by Traveling with Kristen. Really thought-provoking. Yeah, it's like she said, a lot can change. A lot has changed in just a year. I think most of this is because of Donald Trump and the decline of the United States that's been happening the last year and a half. So much can happen so quickly. It's really sad for the US, but I can't even be upset with these Americans out there who are doing this. I can't judge them. I can't be upset because there are so many valid reasons now why someone can't be happy in the US and needs to go somewhere else. You know, that's to try to have a life that they enjoy. I do get it. And yeah, so this was, difficult to admit, but very, very eye-opening. Yeah, it makes sense that this is happening. So, anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like, or leave a comment with your thoughts on Americans leaving the US in record numbers, now more than ever. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.